3-Minute Modernist. Can you tell us sort of the origin story of Ant Farm?
Okay, well, I graduated from architecture school, Tulane University, in 1968. And, nobody in my class, we were all facing either the draft or some way of avoiding the draft. Nobody wanted really to go into work for a corporate architecture firm because of the counterculture and other influences of the 60s. And I had met Doug Michels when he came to Tulane and lectured the year before I graduated, and we'd stayed in touch. And so we met out in, of course, San Francisco. I came out here to attend the Halpern workshop. Barry Halpern, the landscape architect, and his wife, Anna Halpern, the dancer. And we decided to found an alternative architecture practice. And we described it to a friend as underground architecture because, of course, at that point in time, you had underground newspapers, underground radio, underground films in San Francisco. So we were underground architects. And she said, oh, like the Ant Farm, the toy I had as a kid. So immediately we had a perfect name, metaphorical name, and logo, and official color, because Ant Farms only came in green back then.
Oh, that's great. Necessity is the mother of pretty much everything.
Right. Yeah, you can say that.
Excellent. Okay. And now I wanted to ask about really one of the pieces that I can remember hearing about when I was a kid was House of the Century.
Yeah. Well, initially, of course, as an alternative architecture practice, we didn't have any clients walking through the door. And we had to invent our own projects, and we did a series of experiments with inflatable structures, which were cheap and symbolically opposite of what we'd learned in college, which would be brutalism, modernist brutalism. Mm-hmm. But in 1969, in Houston, we, Doug and I were teaching at the University of Houston, and we took a slideshow of our collage work to the Contemporary Arts Museum to try and show it to a curator, just walking to the front door. The curator was not around, but this woman who was a volunteer said, oh, I'd like to see your slideshow. So that was Marilyn Oshman. That's how we met. And that was the beginning of a friendship, which eventually turned into the House of the Century. And that was that was 1969, so it was 3 years later when she kind of said conditionally, yes, let's do this project to build a vacation house at a property the family had outside of Houston.
Excellent. And when was the last time you actually saw it?
I think it was in, let's see, I was going to say 2011. I organized a trip there with a friend who I had met who teaches in the architectural preservation program at Columbia University, Jorge Otero Pelos. And we went there, and Marilyn sort of funded this trip, and just to have a discussion about the possibility of restoring it, because it was damaged. It was damaged in a flood, which I think occurred maybe in 2000 or 2001. And at the time, they didn't do any restoration after the flood damaged the physical structure, including the floor, which was a kind of sculpted floor. So we spent 3 days there, and came up with sort of a series of options or a framework for how she might approach restoring it. But ultimately, nothing has been done since then. So it's in very poor physical condition. It's not really habitable. But the concrete shell itself is still complete. And so that's the thing. I mean, if you live long enough as an architect, you will see your your creative work either disappear by virtue of development or be destroyed by some form of nature, I think.